Hello and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey.
I'm Dan.
And today we are excited to do something a little different than I've ever seen in terms of a Lego review. But we're going to be doing a discussion review of Lego set number 76294, X-Men, the X-Mansion. I, as a giant X-Men fan, purchased this set the day it was released. I put it together and, along with the gift with purchase, which is a Professor X Cerebro build. And I absolutely adored this set. I have some, comments and whatnot. But as a huge X-Men fan, I think I have some rose-colored goggles on. I want to ask Dan, who's, becoming an X-Men fan, but is just more of a fan of Lego himself, to see what he thinks about this set as well. So we're going to kind of have two, not necessarily dueling, but different perspectives on this set. And we're primarily releasing this as a podcast episode. So if you do want to follow along, the Lego.com listing for this set has an excellent depiction of the different things in the set. So please consider, looking at that website while you're going along. And I do want to say that this set cost $330. That's the cost of the set that's sitting in front of you, Dan. And we do have this in front of us. Dan's going to kind of go through it.
Play with it,
if you will. We're going to start with the minifigures here. But before we do that, I want to say, what's your first impression, looking at it?
First glance, I will say it's visually stunning. Second glance, I wish it was bigger.
I agree with you.
But we'll get there.
Yes. So I will say the minifigure selection, what we have, is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there should be more personally, though. So let's start. We have Rogue. We have Iceman. We have Wolverine, Gambit, Professor X, and his classic yellow wheelchair. We have Cyclops, Jean Grey, Bishop, Magneto, and Storm. So a really comprehensive X-Men roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't necessarily say complete.
I know you and I have talked about this plenty of times, but I'll ask for everybody listening. Who do you say is missing? Or if you had to swap one out, who would you get rid of first? And who would you put in their place?
So I think only two are tragically missing. I think Jubilee should be here.
I agree.
Without a doubt. And I think that Nightcrawler should be here as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jubilee is the one that's kind of oh, come on, that should have been here. If I had to swap someone out, I would probably say Bishop, because I don't know if you've gotten to see Bishop.
I'm Bishop.
So he, Bishop's great. I love him. This is honestly probably one of the best designed figures in this set in terms of the printing. But it very much so, he's in and out, kind of transient with the X-Men. Where Jubilee, lives in this house. And there are references to Jubilee throughout this set and the gift with purchase, which is, kind of a little bit oh. And there's a reference to Nightcrawler too, which we'll talk about when we get to the building. But, I will say that is kind of the thing. And I don't necessarily think that for the price, we should have to sub people out. I think that's kind of one of the weak spots, is either the number of figures or the figure quality. So I do want to say, if you look at some figures, go ahead and take a look at Wolverine, Dan. The Wolverine that comes with this set is not of the highest quality, in my opinion. So if you look, there's no arm printing, there's no leg printing, and I have the collectible minifigure series Wolverine with us here too. So this has arm printing. It's got dual molded legs and leg printing. It's got all these wonderful details that really make it to be a really superior Wolverine.
This one has leg printing.
It has leg printing, but the leg print, I'm so sorry. The leg printing one looks worse, far worse than the dual mold. I apologize.
Yes, no, you are absolutely.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
Because I was looking at it.
You're it's there.
I was going to say, just to set this up visually, Joey and I are sitting across from each other. I am looking at the characters as he's describing them. And I was very confused when he said there's no leg printing. I'm like, it's right here.
I apologize. But do you see the difference there? And it's
it's like a different color yellow.
Since that figure exists, I feel like that figure should be included. I don't know. I personally, in my display, I swap it out. I for Dan's benefit, to see the authentic set, I swapped it out. But I display the collectible minifigure series. Another thing is Storm here. You can see that Storm, I like her hair, longer, better than the mohawk. But you can see Storm has very minimal leg printing in the collectible minifigure series. You can just leave them off. It's okay. Storm has very minimal printing in the collectible minifigure series. But it just makes such a big difference. So, again, for my display, I take the legs off of Storm from the collectible minifigure series, put it on. And again, like there are like minor like gray lines, but it's just the little details that I think go into, you don't notice this day to day when I go walk by my set.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's cool. But just for the price and sacrificing the fact that we might have needed to have one or two more figures here, in my opinion, I think you could have either done the skimped out on the figures or, given us more figures instead of giving us less figures and kind of skimming out. That brings me to Professor X, which, again, I'm kind of talking about the ones that I'm not super fond of before I talk about the ones that I love. The Professor X is an interesting figure. It looks just like him. And without any other knowledge of other Lego sets, you'd be like, yeah, sure, fine. I personally think it should be the green suit, but he's in a navy suit here. And that navy suit just so happens to be Michael Scott's outfit. I also have the office set in the room, but we're not going to go get up and get Michael.
They're very similar people. I'm just kidding.
And they're out in their attire. It's very possible. But
Michael, that's a woman's suit.
is that what you're saying about Professor X there?
No, I'm just quoting Michael's most famous suit episode.
And that is in fact true. But yeah, I again, this isn't the end of the world for me.
No.
But it is weird.
I would never have even...
Because you didn't build the office set.
Still, I don't know if that's something I'd even pick up on.
It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't bug me necessarily. Now we can kind of get into some of like, I think, medium quality figures. Cyclops, they had to make some changes compared to the previous one, but overall I think that the detail and the printing is really cool and really good.
Yeah.
I love that they included this piece that allows him to kind of hold like a missile, like a flick fire missile from like a Star Wars ship, and use it as his like optic blast, which is awesome. And Rogue, if you look over there, Dan.
Yeah.
I think it's a good figure, generally. You can take her off. I think she's a good figure, but it's the same one that was included in the X-Jet set, and I think there's still some issues. I think the printing is a little strange. I think the hairpiece could have been improved, but, what do you think about that?
I think it's good.
It's good.
And again, this, as a non-X-Men fan, this is me thinking of the Cal Kestis Captain Rex.
Uh-huh.
I feel like you might be a little upset because you've got to see that that why should the $3.99 X-Mansion get the same Rogue as a lesser set? I feel like is ultimately where you're at, whether...
And not even necessarily that, but just like the Rogue that they make. Why is it this? Why is it this hairpiece? And maybe not like the Storm hairpiece, but colored differently. Like her hair is kind of big in the show.
Yeah.
Or in the comics. So minor. I still love it. It's it's the figure I was probably most looking forward to in the set because she's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
A character that I've been waiting for a very, very long time, Jean Grey. I think this is another one that could have benefited from some leg printing. I think the hair color is fantastic. The shoulder pads are great. The effect pieces that they use for her are wonderful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's, Jean Grey's a great one. Gonna go to Bishop next. Again, like I said, I think quality-wise, one of the stronger, showing in terms of like the tattered details on him. He's got nice printing all throughout. Would you say, and we have a few, two more, but what would you say so far?
We have 3 more.
3? Oh, Iceman. You can grab Iceman. He's kind of hiding behind the Sentinel for me. I thought the choice they don't really do clear, like translucent clear minifigures. Mm-hmm. No Force Ghosts yet.
Yeah.
But I think the white Iceman is really, really good.
Yeah. And they did the light printing.
Yes, like a white with the light blue printing. And I think that the use of the translucent pieces for the ice is really fun. Mm-hmm. I really like that. Next, I'm going to hand you Magneto. This is something I've been waiting for a long time. The very first X-Men that they ever released was Wolverine, Deadpool, Magneto. And they haven't made a Magneto in his traditional outfit. So I've been waiting for this for a very long time. And I also really, really, really love the molded cape.
Yes.
I think it looks fantastic.
I agree. I feel like they were testing this out. I feel like we might be seeing it going forward.
It's been in a few things. There has been a Batman one. There is a Doctor Strange one. I think maybe one Thor had one, but it's not been... it's really in sets that are not as designed for play. Because you can't fit that character in a car or a ship.
Right.
So I think they kind of reserve its use. But that brings us to our last minifigure, and I think this is, in my opinion, probably the best one, and this is Gambit.
Yeah.
Wonderful character who's gained a resurgence in popularity from Deadpool and Wolverine. but
It's his time now.
it is his time now. You can see that I think it's just they perfectly captured his like torso with the jacket and the pink. I think he could have used some dual molded legs potentially for his feet, but that card piece, I mean,
Yeah.
I think like seeing it physically, and you can elaborate on this, it really is almost better than seeing like a picture of it.
Yeah, it's kind of, again, so if you are following along, it is an arched pink flame with the 3 cards, much like we see Gambit use.
Mm-hmm.
Looks very cool.
I'm a huge fan of
And
it.
the way it's been angled, or at least Joey has it angled, he has it attacking the Sentinel.
That's
So-
not, they technically have him kind of where Rogue is now. I like to put him here so that he's like attacking the Sentinel with the card piece. I have him standing on the balcony on the 2nd floor. That brings us through the minifigures. So what do you think after, going through them, their pros and cons? What do you think about it?
As somebody who doesn't have such a deep attachment, I like them. I understand where you're coming from, though.
Do you think this is an appropriate both quality and quantity, just as a Lego fan?
As a Lego fan, yes. For the size of the set, and that's again, I kind of touched on that earlier. My biggest complaint is it looks just a little small.
Yeah, in the show, it technically is 3 stories.
Mm-hmm.
Or, in the comics. And I think they sacrifice some depth in the mansion, and we'll talk about that kind of when we get inside or, do the around. But anything else to add on the figures? At the end of the day, I really can't complain. I will say one character that I didn't say is missing because he was also in the collectible minifigure series is Beast.
Mm-hmm.
I have him here as well. Dan can look at him. I mean, again, not part of the set, but I display it with him. So I infuse these collectible minifigure series characters into the set. I think it kind of it adds to some of my it resolves some of my complaints.
Yeah.
Next, I want to get to the Sentinel. So you can go ahead and pull him off, Dan.
It's a good size.
The Sentinel is a fantastic size. They'd released a previous set with a smaller Sentinel that wasn't... It was really cool, but it wasn't like, wow, that is like the full-size Sentinel. I think it's so cool. The build was really fun, and I don't usually like repetitive builds of like building like the legs and the arms, but it was super, super enjoyable, and I really love that it's like almost the height of the mansion.
As it should be. I mean, they're 2-3 stories tall.
Yeah, and there's some stickers that they added that are like damage effects that, kind of like you can add like a Wolverine scratch. I have too much indecision to actually do that.
I don't blame you.
I think it's a really cool detail. Like the fact that the head is printed and not a sticker is awesome. Dan's playing around now with the it comes with this like cable to like hold an X-Men. I haven't had anyone displayed in there, but after seeing that, I think I might kind of want to.
Right? Like,
it's pretty cool.
Again, yeah, I'd say yes.
Awesome.
Sorry,
Dan's having fun.
I'm playing.
You're allowed to play. Anything else to add on the Sentinel before we start to dive into the actual build?
No, like you said, I really appreciate its size.
It's a very nice touch, and I think it adds a nice detail where they could have just not. I think it adds a nice piece of flair, gives something for the characters to do, and it's good. But moving into the actual set, I do want to say we're not like super technical builders. We're just going to talk about like what we think of what is presented here and whether we enjoy it or not. So I'm going to start with the exterior. Here you can see we have this very well built out, in my opinion, like front lawn. And I think that takes away from some of the depth too. I wouldn't like to sacrifice that.
Are these sprinklers or these cannons?
I think they're sprinklers, but I think they could also be cannons depending on where you are. So yeah, there's some grass raised up and there's like either a cannon or a sprinkler shooting out. I think that the inclusion of Wolverine's motorcycle with like a claw mark on the ground is a great detail. These pieces are kind of made to look like Jean Grey's levitating them from the fire hydrant. And like the lamppost is falling over. There's an Xavier Institute sign. I think it's just a great touch.
And there's a lot of distress in the mansion itself.
Yes.
For example, like I'm sitting on the side with the bricks that are getting knocked off in the fight.
It's really cool, and it's built out in such a way where it is like it's like kinetic. Like you can feel the sense of explosion almost, which is really, really fun. And then we kind of get to the back here, and I'm going to turn this. This is where you can see a few different, Easter eggs. We've got a Nightcrawler and Dazzler sticker. We got a basketball hoop. We got, I don't know that do you know Trask? Yeah, he's the guy that makes the Sentinels. You would have seen him in the cartoon. There's a box that's like Trask Industries. There's some Easter eggs here and this little dumpster, like a Beast hat or Nightcrawler sword. But that's kind of... Oh, and this sticker. The sticker's really cool. It's like, you know the Days of Future Past poster where it's like wanted, deceased.
Yeah.
They have it like collected.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty cute. And again, there's some other details that I'm not going to... Yeah, we can do it. You might not even be able to see it, but if you move this AC unit behind one of the windows, you can see there's like an Apocalypse and Mr. Sinister logo. Any chance you see that? If you look through the window. So just lots of little details, like Pyro was here, graffiti on the wall. Lots of little details that are really fun, and I think it, it's enjoyable for an X-Men fan to see.
I agree.
So there is one play feature, and I told my wife when I was building this, one of the most consistent things about the X Mansion is that it gets destroyed regularly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a way to pull a lever and blow the top off of the mansion, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And it's not too disruptive. You can put it back together really well. I am more of a fan of display sets than play functions, but I do think it's pretty fun. And you can see that doesn't really go in.
Makes sense. The single-player game. Single-player gamer wouldn't like to have fun with Legos.
Dan's calling me boring. So first, I do want to say, like, the way that they built the roof here is really cool and really exciting. I thought they like the pieces they made or chose to use really make it look like a full-on roof. So now I'm currently taking the roof off to show Dan the first and second. Leave that one for now. We're going to leave that. So we're going to do the side of the building that isn't the danger room at the moment. So we're going to start with bedroom/lab space. There's
our favorite.
Oh yeah, in a way. There's lots of little details in there. You can see like a print or a sticker of the first X-Men comic on the floor, some bubble gum referencing Jubilee, a sword that they've been kind of cheeky about whether it's Wolverine or whether it's Deadpool or Psylocke or Silver Samurai. There's the Cyclops and Jean Grey picture for Wolverine to be sad about. Lots of little details, and there's far more. But it's just so many cool little references packed into a small room.
The spilled coffee.
And the kind of as you go into the hallway, you have Beast's lab. A lot of interesting like new designs on the computer and stuff. And there's an interesting build if you see like the drawers kind of open. It's just the way they had you build it. It's just so much energy.
It looks like it's a lived-in house,
which is awesome. And I love that about it. So that's that room. Now we're getting into, and this is kind of one of my slight issues. I think they did the best that they could with the space that they had. But now we're technically in an area that should kind of be in the basement, maybe.
From the comics, I know, not the comics, from this show, I know this is supposed to be in the basement.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the main middle area. We've got Cerebro, we've got a lab. If you lift up the MRI machine, you can see like a Wolverine X-ray.
Oh, yeah.
So there's lots of fun little details in there. You can see they actually have kind of like a movie Easter egg. If you put Professor X in there and you put Cerebro, which is just kind of a little like pot piece for like a plant, you can put Professor X there and it kind of looks like he's looking out into Cerebro from the movies with like the red detail. You're not super familiar with the movies, right? No. But that is a reference to that, which is really, really cool. And they obviously don't have the space in this to build an elevator fully out, or build the stairs fully out, but they have these cool elevators that are built in a really unique way that don't take up that much space, but also, kind of
adds a lot of depth to the room.
Yes. I also apologize. I'm doing a lot of talking this episode, but
it's okay. I'm playing.
Dan's playing, and then at the end, he's going to give you his overall thoughts as well. So if we come now, Dan, before we go over to this side, if we look in the first floor, we have a classroom, and you can see it's like first class online. You have Beast. So you have Beast teaching a class. You have these really cool little desks here.
And Beast Academy.
Yeah. Globe printed on a headpiece, which I thought was really fun. And then if you look, how I showed you that Easter egg where you move the AC unit, you can see references on the back, but this actually exposes like the stats of a Sentinel, which are pretty cool. You can kind of partially see it.
Yeah.
A lot of stickers in this set. I'm not super fond of them, but
I've seen people use the Lego remover.
That's what I did. My wife sent me a video of that. So that's actually how I've been applying these. And I think I did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't usually. So,
know what else you could have used? Could have used a cell scraper.
No, thank you. That actually would have been very helpful with the length that it has. But science talk. I love here this little bookshelf. And it's very flat. Like it had to be very flat for the narrowness of the hallway. But it adds a really nice detail, that kind of builds out into this main corridor, which is awesome. I love this like X tiled into the floor, the big chairs. They're like a bust. And you can see a picture of Professor X and Magneto. First Class. Lots of little details built in here,
Mhm.
which are really, really, really fun. That brings me to the end of like kind of the main building. You know, with the exception of what we have left to discuss, but it's its own kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do think there are a few, like I think Professor X's office would have been a nice thing to kind of have.
It would be, but what do you think? If you had, there's 5 rooms?
Mm-hmm. This is kind of where we're going to kind of get into. I think they're kind of stuck because of the size of this, and you know, Lego designers get the price before they get the actual item. So they did a phenomenal job with what they have, but they needed to include the danger room.
Yeah,
and that's what we have left. The danger room typically is in the basement.
Yes.
So if you look at this here, Dan, and now I'm exposing if you're looking at it head on the left side of the building, you can see we have the danger room control room there with, you know, your control panel, a little chessboard referencing Magneto and Professor X. And this, honestly, very similar build for both the first and second floor of different danger room type, you know, challenges to deal with. And there are a lot of interesting little references in there. Like each of those numbers on the you know, weapons are references to X-Men comics. So like they really put a lot of care and attention into it. But I feel like it's almost like this is very narrow and very hard to put figures in. I truthfully haven't even put a figure into the danger room because it's kind of like
how even would you?
I mean, they have them and then they have them kind of hanging off of stuff, and it looks cool in the promotional pictures. And one other issue I also have is like, in order to have the danger room with all this like gray detail on the weapons, they close off the window, and you can see it from outside. And I think that's part of why the destruction helps, and the Sentinel covers it up. Yes, which is good.
Very, very clever.
It is, and because it is noticeable. If you like, you might have seen it as you removed the Sentinel. You might have been able to notice that.
Yeah.
So now that we've torn this thing apart, one other little detail. Sorry, pretty cool. If you look here, we pull out this box. And it opens in the danger room, and it's actually like the X door. It's a sticker on
that's
like
cool.
a plate. It's pretty nifty. And again, I'm you know, glossing over a few things and leaving out a few details, but we're getting the large takeaway here of the set. Last thing I want to talk about is the gift with purchase, and then we'll kind of do our wrapping up of what our overall thoughts are on this. So this is more of a movie set, which is very strange. It's a relatively, you know, for what it is, it's pretty substantial. I was a little surprised, honestly, but it was a weird choice to include the, you know, smaller, scaled down version of movie Cerebro, where Professor X wheels out onto the, you know, the hallway into the platform, and you can see if you look at the screen, it's a printed piece that has Jubilee's face on it.
Oh yeah.
So they know she should be there.
Well, that's going to be the next set.
I would love that.
I feel like they're going to keep adding X-Men sets.
One X-Men at a time.
Yeah.
I will say I would have loved for the set or the gift with purchase to like complement the set, but this is very, you know, cool in its own right to have a movie set. I think that kind of wraps up our discussion of the actual set itself. What do you think after all this? Is it worth it? Is it cool? As an outside, I guess I'll say the person who bought it, I'm very happy with it. My minor complaints are trivial. When I walk past it and look at it, I get a stupid giant grin on my face, and I would buy it again if time was rewound. I'm super happy with it. Again, I have my reservations, but I love it. What do you think as the outsider?
I think it's really cool. I wish it was just a tiny bit bigger.
You think it was overpriced for the size, or do you think?
No. I would pay the $50, $60, $100 for a bigger set.
I think I stand by that. And you see the Avengers Tower at the Lego store, and it's ginormous. You see the Daily Bugle, and it's ginormous. And again, I think this is a little inflated in price, as they've been doing with the X-Men sets recently, but I really, really enjoy it.
Me too.
Do you have a favorite? I'm going to ask you two questions, and then we can wrap it up. Do you have a favorite Easter egg / feature of the building?
I like how the top blows up.
It's pretty cool. It's fun. It's way more fun than I was expecting from a big boy set.
Yeah, me too.
A big grown-up set. Lastly, who was your favorite minifigure?
Ooh, probably Gambit.
I think that's a fair one. Very universal, I'd say. Well, anything else to add on the X Mansion?
No, sir.
Well, thank you so much for listening. This is a little bit of a different take on a Lego review. I've never seen like a discussion-based review, so hopefully, I guess it was more me yapping, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, we got to hear Dan's perspective on these cool details. And again, I hope that you enjoyed listening. And if you have been on the fence about this set, I still would wholeheartedly recommend it. But with that, we thank you so much for listening, and we hope you would let us know your thoughts on this set if you do have it or if you're thinking about getting it. And please consider giving us a like, a comment, a review, or subscription on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. And consider giving us a follow on Twitter or X at Blue Shadow Pod or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And with that, we thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.